Everybody roots for the chosen one. Every time. The farm boy, the orphan, the kid who turns out to be special. You've been trained your whole life to stand up and cheer the second he does. That's the con. Because across these two movies, the chosen one you're rooting for grows up, takes the throne, and lights a holy war that kills billions. Not by accident, on purpose, with his eyes open. And he calls it destiny. Dune isn't a hero's journey, it's a heist. The loot is the most valuable thing in the universe. The mark is a whole planet full of believers. And the con, the actual con, is a religion that got forged centuries before the hero was even born. Stay to the end, and I'll walk you the whole paper trail. Who planted the prophecy? Who ran the grift on the ground? And the one person in the entire galaxy who sees the scam for exactly what it is, loves him anyway, and still walks away. Burn her face into your memory. I'm Rook. We steal the story, you keep the hours. 2 films, 5.5 hours of desert, dread, and the most beautiful lie ever put on a screen. Lock the door. Hood up. I'm going to rob both movies in one sitting and hand you back your afternoon. And by the time we're done, you're going to feel a little strange about who you were cheering for. Let's crack it. First, the board. And this one's a whole galaxy, so stay tight to me. Thousands of years in the future, humanity rules the stars. No supercomputers. They banned the thinking machines a long time ago, so instead they breed humans into calculators and psychics. Charming place. On top sits one man, the Emperor. Under him, the noble houses, and propping the entire thing up, one substance. Spice. Spice is the loot. It exists on exactly one planet. It stretches your lifespan, sharpens your mind, and here's the part that matters. You cannot travel between stars without it. The navigators who fold space from one end of the galaxy to the other run on the stuff. No spice, no travel. No travel, no empire. So whoever controls the spice doesn't control a planet. They control everything. Oh, and it comes out of a giant worm. The most powerful substance in existence, and the whole universe runs on monster exhaust. Keep that in your pocket, because the spice comes from one place. A desert world called Arrakis. Dune. That's the vault. No water, killing heat, and under the sand, worms the size of cathedrals that surface for anything that moves with a rhythm. The most valuable substance in existence, guarded by monsters, on a planet actively trying to cook you. Perfect job. Now the crews. 3 families and 1 set of ghosts. House Atreides, the good guys. Noble, beloved, led by Duke Leto, with his son Paul and Paul's mother Jessica. Everyone loves them, which, in this universe, is a diagnosis. House Harkonnen, the bad guys. Cruel, greedy, led by a floating slab of a man, the Baron. They bled Arrakis dry for decades, and they hate the Atreides down to the marrow. And the Emperor rules it all, and is quietly terrified of how popular Duke Leto is getting. Those are the crews you're told to watch. But the real con artists never sit at the table. Meet the Bene Gesserit, a secret sisterhood of women trained to superhuman control, mind, and body. They read a lie right off your face. They bend your will with their voice. One word, pitched exactly right, and you'll do what they say. And for thousands of years, they've been running the longest con in fiction. These women play chess so slowly, the pieces die of old age between moves. 2 of those moves matter. Move 1, the breeding program. They've been arranging who marries who across the noble houses for centuries, steering the bloodlines toward one prize, a specific superhuman. A messiah they call the Kwisatz Haderach, a man who can see across all of time. Move 2, And this one runs the whole story, so tattoo it on your arm. It's called the Missionaria Protectiva. The sisterhood travels to backwater worlds and plants fake prophecies. They bury a fake religion in a culture centuries early and let it grow. So one day, a sister or her kid can stroll in, tick the boxes the prophecy predicts, and get worshipped as a god. Instant divinity. Just add time. Guess which desert planet they seeded a couple thousand years back? That's the con, crew. The prophecy the desert people cling to, that an outsider will come, free them, and turn their world green, the Lisan al-Gaib, the voice from the outer world, it's a forgery. Planted. A bear trap left open in the sand, waiting for the right outsider to step in it. Now watch who steps in it. Meet Paul Atreides, a teenager, brilliant, haunted by dreams, a desert, a war, a blue-eyed girl he's never met. Because his mother Jessica is Bene Gesserit, and she broke the rules. The sisterhood ordered her to bear a daughter for the program. She loved the Duke, so she had a son instead, and then secretly taught that son all their forbidden tricks. The 1,000-year plan just jumped the rails, one generation early, and these women do not do surprises. So they send their scariest nun to test the boy, the Gom Jabbar. She makes Paul put his hand in a box and holds a poison needle to his neck. The box floods his hand with pure imaginary agony. Feels like it's cooking down to the bone. Pull your hand out to save yourself, the needle finishes you. It's a test of whether you're human enough to override your own animal panic. And to survive it, Paul recites the line every Dune fan can say in their sleep. I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. He holds. He passes. Nobody's ever eaten that much pain. She walks out rattled, because this boy might be the exact thing they bred for, arriving early and completely off their leash. Then the trap springs. The Emperor hands House Atreides the keys to Arrakis, the spice planet, a gift so obscene nobody could refuse it, which is exactly why Duke Leto knows it's bait. He walks his family in anyway, because turning it down is just a slower death. They arrive, and the knife is already in the room. The Atreides doctor, the one man whose loyalty was supposedly unbreakable, welded shut by conditioning that cannot fail, has been broken. The Baron has his wife. So here's your first lesson, and don't blink because it's the one the whole franchise is built on. The unbreakable man breaks. He shuts off the shields one night and lets the dark in. And the dark walks in wearing a borrowed uniform. Because here's the part people miss. The Harkonnens don't win this alone. The Emperor secretly loans them the Sardaukar, the most feared killers in the galaxy, dressed up as Harkonnen grunts. This isn't a rival house attacking. It's the throne itself, quietly deleting a family that got too well liked. House Atreides burns in a single night. Duke Leto, captured and drugged, gets one last move. A poison capsule hidden in a false tooth. Dragged in front of the gloating Baron, he bites down. The gas kills everyone in the room. Everyone except the Baron because, of course he does. Leto dies with his family's whole world in ashes around him. Paul and Jessica run into the deep desert, the one place the killers won't follow. And out there, dosed on raw spice, Paul's visions crack wide open. He sees it. Green banners, fanatics, his own face worshipped as a god, and armies pouring off this planet in his name, drowning the galaxy in blood. He sees the holy war, and it terrifies him. Hold on to that. The hero is scared of himself from the very first act. Then they meet them. The Fremen, the desert people everyone underestimates right up until they don't get to anymore. Their leader, Stilgar, and a young woman with blue on blue eyes, Chani. the girl from his dreams, standing right in front of him. But there's a toll to join. A Fremen named Jameis challenges Paul to a duel to the death, and Paul, who has never killed a soul, has to put a knife in a man to earn his spot. He does it. He weeps over the body, and Chani looks at him and says, "This is only the beginning." Roll credits. That's the entire first movie. And notice the sleight of hand. It just spent 3 hours making you love this kid. Grieving, gentle, brave. That is not an accident. That's the bait going on the hook. Which is why movie 2 is where it gets ugly, so stay close. Because in part 2, the Khan gets run for real, and it splits the desert clean in half. The Fremen look at Paul and see two completely different men. Down south, the true believers, led by Stilgar, see the prophecy walking. Every single thing Paul does, Stilgar reads as proof. He's the funniest and the scariest man in the movie, because his faith cannot be dented. Paul trips, as written. Paul breathes wrong, a sign. That's what real belief looks like, crew. Nothing can disprove it, because everything confirms it. And then there's Chani, the one who isn't buying. She loves Paul, the actual man, the off-worlder who bleeds and doubts. But the prophecy? She's seen this trick before. She knows a magic outsider showing up to save the desert people is exactly the story their oppressors would want them to swallow. Her line is the whole movie in 6 words. This prophecy is how they enslave us. Remember her. She's the only clear pair of eyes in the room, and the movie keeps cutting to her for a reason. And here's where you learn Paul isn't the only con artist in his own family. Jessica goes to work. To lead the Fremen, she has to become a reverend mother, which means drinking the water of life, a poison that kills anyone not strong enough to transmute it inside their own body. She drinks it. She survives. And it wakes up the daughter in her womb, an unborn baby, Aaliyah, who starts talking to her mother from the inside, fully conscious, fully awake. And now, armed with that, Jessica stops being a refugee and becomes the closer. She walks among the believers and sells the prophecy, confirming signs, converting doubters, building Paul's legend on the ground while he's still out front, pretending he doesn't want it. The mother isn't watching her son become a god. She's the one forging the paperwork. Meanwhile, Paul is falling in love and falling into legend at the same time. He learns the desert. He takes a Fremen name, Muad'Dib. And he pulls the signature stunt, the one move that seals belief forever. He calls a sandworm up out of the deep desert, hooks it, and rides the monster across the dunes in front of everyone. You cannot fake that. When you can surf the god their prophecy said would come, the con doesn't just work. It welds shut. But Paul keeps refusing one last step, going all the way south to the fundamentalists and fully taking the crown, because his visions are crystal clear. The instant he does that, the holy war starts. He's trying to thread a needle, get his revenge on the Harkonnens and the Emperor without becoming the god that drowns the galaxy. Spoiler, you cannot thread that needle. Nobody can. Because the universe sends the wall. The Baron's younger nephew, Feyd-Rautha, and he is a nightmare in human skin. We meet him on the Harkonnen homeworld, a black and white hell, where he butchers prisoners in an arena for the crowd. Cruel, brilliant, a genuine psychopath with a haircut. The Baron names him the new heir and aims him at Arrakis. And Feyd hits the Fremen like a hammer, wiping out Paul's home, Siege Tabur, in a single strike. That's the wall. Paul's out of moves. To unite every Fremen alive and unlock the full power he needs to win, one door is left, and it's the deadly one. So watch his eyes here, because this is the whole movie in one gulp. He drinks the water of life, the poison that kills men. He drops into a coma so deep, everyone thinks he's gone. Until Chani, of all people, weeps the tears that pull him back. And he wakes up changed. Now he can see everything, every past, every future, every thread at once. And here is the exact frame the Khan turns, so do not blink. Paul, fully awake, looks down every possible path with perfect clarity. He sees the holy war on almost all of them. He sees the mountain of dead. And he chooses the path anyway, because it's the one where he wins. That's the pivot from hero to something else entirely. He does not stumble into being the Messiah. He puts the mask on with his eyes wide open, knowing to the decimal what it costs. He walks out in front of the masked believers and stops pretending. He proclaims himself the Lisan al-Gaib, the voice from the outer world, their God. The crowd detonates, and the boy who spent 2 movies terrified of this exact moment smiles. From there, it's the getaway, and it is spectacular, which is the point. So don't let the fireworks talk you out of what you're watching. The Emperor and his fleet arrive, his daughter, Princess Irulan, beside him. Paul reveals he knows the truth, that it was the Emperor who ordered his father's murder. Then he cracks the vault wide open with his family's hidden stockpile of nuclear weapons, blows a hole straight through the mountain wall shielding the enemy, and sends the Fremen through a sandstorm on a cavalry of sandworms, right into the throat of the Imperial army. It's a rout. The Baron who murdered his father? Paul puts a blade in him and drops him in the sand where he belongs. Arrakis falls. Paul takes the throne, and to make it legal, he demands the Emperor's daughter's hand. The Harkonnen heir, Feyd-Rautha, steps up as the Emperor's champion, and Paul meets him knife to knife. Gets cut, bleeds, kills him. Done. Paul Atreides, the grieving boy from movie 1, is now the single most powerful being in the universe. And then the great houses of the galaxy, watching from orbit, refuse to kneel to a desert warlord. So Paul gives the order, attack them. And that's it. That's the getaway that torches the whole neighborhood. The holy war he spent 2 movies dreading, he just lit the fuse himself. The fanatics pour off Arrakis to conquer the stars in his name. So let's call the Khan, because now every wire is showing. You just watched a hero's journey. Grieving orphan, secret powers, evil empire, the girl, the throne. Every beat you've been conditioned to cheer. And underneath it, the entire time, was a different movie playing. A con man reading a rigged game and cashing the whole table. The prophecy that made Paul a god was never real. It was a forgery the Bene Gesserit buried in the sand centuries ago, and Paul knew it. Chani said it to his face. He used it anyway. His mother ran it on the ground, and the miracle of the chosen one was just an outsider with superpowers stepping neatly into a trap built for exactly this. And the Holy War? Here's the part that should ice your spine. Paul saw it coming, in detail. His entire gift is seeing the future, and the future he saw was rivers of blood spreading out from his own face. The books put the final body count at 61 billion people. 61 billion. He didn't get swept up in a wave he couldn't read. He read it better than anyone alive, stared straight at the slaughter and picked it, because it was the one road where he walks away on top. That's not a hero who fell. That's a man who watched the security tapes, saw exactly who dies, and pulled the job anyway. Which brings me back to the one honest read in the room, Chani. When Paul takes the crown and the political marriage and the god mask, she does not cheer. She's the only one who doesn't. She loved the man. She will not bow to the myth. And in the final shot of the movie, while an entire planet worships her lover as a living god, Chani turns her back on every bit of it, calls a sandworm, and rides off alone into the desert. That ending is not in the book. The director bolted it on for one reason. He knew that after 5 hours of gorgeous spectacle, you might walk out thinking you'd watched a triumph. So he leaves you with the one person who sees the truth, riding away in disgust. She's not there for the plot. She's there for you. Remember her? Told you. Because here's the real job, the one the author pulled 60 years ago. The man who wrote Dune, Frank Herbert, didn't write a hero. He built a trap. For you. He made Paul brilliant, sympathetic, and wronged, so you'd fall in behind him, precisely so he could show you what falling in behind a savior actually buys. His whole thesis, in his own words, beware of heroes. Much better to rely on your own judgment. He said, and I'm quoting, superheroes are a catastrophe, because a leader's mistakes get multiplied by every follower who quits thinking and just believes. That's the con Dune runs on all of us. It takes the most seductive story we own, the chosen one, and uses it to warn us about the most dangerous instinct we've got, the urge to hand our judgment to somebody shiny and let them drive. Every green batter, every chant of Lisan al-Gaib, every roar of that crowd, that's not the victory music, crew. That's the warning label. And the trick is, they scored it to sound like a coronation. And if you think that's dark, the next movie goes darker. There's a third film coming, and it adapts the book Herbert wrote specifically because readers missed the point the first time. They cheered Paul, so he dragged his own hero into the light and showed the aftermath. An empire of corpses, a god emperor hollowed out and trapped inside his own myth, until a blind and broken Paul finally walks into the desert to die as an ordinary man, trying to hand the legend back. That's the runway this whole thing is landing on. Chani turning her back is just the approach. Now, honest thief, because a crew doesn't lie to itself. Could the third movie soften it? Maybe. Big finales fumble. But every wire in these two films is soldered to the same board. The planted prophecy, the mother closing the deal, Chani walking away, Paul choosing the blood with his eyes open. This was never the story of a chosen one. It's the story of how a chosen one gets manufactured, and what it costs a galaxy when the machine finally works. Clean job. Beautiful, terrible, clean. And that's the take. 2 films, 5.5 hours of the most beautiful movie ever made about the ugliest idea we own, lifted in one sitting. Time stolen on this job? The better part of a day, handed right back to you. You're welcome. Spend it well. Or go rewatch part 1. It plays completely different once you know the kid you're rooting for is the villain. Now you work. Down in the comments, is Paul a hero, a victim, or a villain who saw it all coming? And the real one, was he trapped by the future, or did he choose it? Be wrong. Be wrong loudly. While you're down there, hit subscribe. That's your membership card to the crew. We pull a job like this every single week. Movies, shows, games. If it has a story, we'll steal it and hand you the hours back. And the board's open. 3 targets. And the most wanted gets cracked next. 1. Another chosen one. Another farm boy. Another glowing power nobody ever audits. That's Star Wars. And we'll pull the panel off the whole mythology. 2. The one heist where the crew agrees the loot's too hot to keep, and the only winning move is to throw the score into a volcano. Lord of the Rings. 3. Everybody thinks it's a swamp comedy. We think it's a con about who gets to be the monster. Don't laugh. The Shrek job has layers. You pick where we hit. The crew always does. That's the Dune Job, start to finish. 1 planet, 1 drug, 1 manufactured god, and 61 billion reasons to be careful who you worship. I'm Rook. We steal the story, you keep the hours. See you on the next job. And hey, next time a crowd starts chanting somebody's name, check who taught them the words.